glad to be here with you this evening at the Celebration Gala in 2023. We hope everybody's in for a lively, eventful, informational evening. And we will be your entertainment for the evening. So without further ado, we're going to pass it on to our speaker for this evening. We'll talk to you later on.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. And welcome to tonight's gala. I am Trey Davis, one of the assistant city managers here for the city of Greensboro. On behalf of our city manager, Taiwo Jaoba, and our city management staff, also to our mayor and city council members who are here tonight. You will hear from some of them tonight. I just wanted to take a moment just to welcome you. Thank you for coming and spending tonight with us. Just want to tell you that, as our vision statement for the city is that the community will have endless economic development opportunities and exceptional quality of life. I think it is fitting tonight that we're here honoring not only our guests, but remembering those who sacrificed themselves for opportunities for others to have opportunities in this community. And we thank you again for being here tonight. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Love Jones. And again, thank you, and please enjoy yourselves.
Good evening. Oh, I'm good. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Again, as was stated, I am Dr. Love Jones. I am the director of the Human Rights Department with the City of Greensboro. Welcome to our annual Human Rights Celebration. Just to give context, several years ago, my staff and I decided to try to have a discussion about ways in which we could say thank you and give back to a community that supports human rights efforts over and over again, doing so much critical work. We also wanted to be able to acknowledge those who have paved the way doing foundational work before I was even born. And so for us, we realized that our community has very few events that lift up the work that's happening in the city of Greensboro, especially at the hand of our volunteers by way of our commissions. And so that's what tonight is for, to lift up, appreciate, express to those who tirelessly volunteer to do work on behalf of this 300,000 population city, to make sure that people do not continue to live at the margin, but find themselves at the center of opportunity, at the center of belonging. Greensboro must continue to become a place where people feel that they belong, not just exist. And so tonight, again, is about celebrating that work. Just to give additional context for the work of human rights, we are a department that manages several functions associated with social justice and human rights, to include fair housing support for investigations of discrimination. We also manage complaints associated with discrimination in public places by way of public accommodation. We engage in international support as well in order to make sure that newcomers to our community, again, feel that sense of belonging. We also work on behalf of reentry populations, or those in need of a second chance, those who are justice served. And then we also, which is why we're here tonight to say thank you, we support 5 bodies on behalf of our city organization that do volunteer work tirelessly, to include the Human Rights Commission, the Commission on the Status of Women, the International Advisory Committee, the Ad Hoc Committee for African American Disparity, as well as the Transgender Task Force, the last 2 being newly added as of 2020. So again, the work that we do cannot happen alone, and tonight our commitment is to say thank you. So without further ado, I want to be sure to give Credence to our commissioners who have done amazing work by way of calling our commission administrator, Liz Lennon, to the stage to acknowledge our volunteer board and commission members. Please welcome her to the stage.
As you can see, I got a special entrance. Good afternoon, evening, everyone. Evening, everyone. Good, it's good to see everybody. Hope you're enjoying the celebration so far. As mentioned, I am Liz Lennon, and I work with all of your commissions and boards with the City of Greensboro. And I have the honor and privilege to work with people from all walks of life. And these very people make up, as Dr. Jones mentioned, our 5 bodies. So I'm going to give just a little bit of insight of what we've accomplished for the 22-23 year by each commission and board, and actually acknowledge some of those that are here. So when I do call your name, if you could stand. Our first Human Rights Commission, some of the things that they tapped into in 2022, as mentioned 23, was our Let's Talk series, which was an awesome series. It had 5 topics, and it really talked about accessibility. One of those things were access to food, how to run for local office, how to seek justice. So all of those things that you would like to do and not sure of how to do it, they actually had speakers come in and really, really teach you and talk you through the process of how to access all of those things. And first, most importantly, is our MLK actual breakfast. Back in January, which was awesome. We had a lot of people say they enjoyed, and it's something that we host every year. So that is with our MLK breakfast and as with our Human Rights Commission. And I'm not for sure if any of the committee members are here, but if you are, if you could please stand so we could recognize you. Thank you. And next up, we have our Commission on the Status of Women, and some of their things this past year were our Leadership Through Service, which was one of our first series that we did for the commission, and it was actually people coming in that were in different professions. We had law, health, and they came in to give the women tips on how to be leaders within the community. So we were successful with that, as well as the Women's Equality Day breakfast that happened in August, and they tapped into health. And so we had the director of Moses Cone come in and really, really talk to all of the women about really being a leader within the city, and it was phenomenal. But also in March, which I was pretty excited about, was our women's survey, which was very successful. Their goal was to have about 400 people to take the survey, and the survey was really for women in the community to see what their likes were, what their dislikes were, what it felt like to be a woman in Greensboro. And so instead of having that 400, we had, I think, over 1,100 women who took the survey, so it was very, very successful. And we're looking forward to also our Women's Equality Day breakfast upcoming in August. And also we have our TTF, our Transgender Task Force, which this year they were really on the move. They did their Transgender Day of Remembrance, and that was November 20th. We had a very good turnout, and it was really, really focused on people who have lost their lives in the trans community. And they also have a youth summit coming up. So these are some of the things that we have, and not to mention our ad hoc committee on African American disparities, who did in February for Black History Month. They had actually a segment on Eugene Harrison, which was the first lynching noted in Greensboro, and they came in and really gave a history on that. So these are just some of the highlights. I can't ramble on because they do so much, but these were some of the things that we were able to touch on for the year 22-23. And you can tell this is why we're excited, and everything that they do embodies us as a commission in our department in the city. So at this time, international committee, I apologize, which also they just, how could I forget, completed their World Refugee Day this past, 2 weeks ago, and it was phenomenal. We had people, once again, from all walks of life. We had culture, dancing, food, and so they are really, really in touch with the community so far as the immigrants and our refugees are concerned. So they have a lot of programs. So once again, we've done a lot of things within our boards and commissions, and we're looking forward to another successful year for 23, 24. So if all of you that are a part of these commissions and boards, if you are here, if you could stand so we could acknowledge you at this time. Thank you so much. And at this time, we have Dr. Love, who will come back. Please give her a hand. Thank you.
As you've just heard, these boards and bodies do an immense amount of work and leave a very strong footprint on our community, helping to educate. For those of you who aren't familiar, boards and commissions are responsible for being a liaison voice, both directions, both to residents in the community, but also to educate staff and city council about policies, procedures, barriers in general that keep people from living out their very best experience in this city. And so again, we thank you so much. For those of you who may have additional questions about the different boards and bodies, we have a table at the back that actually showcases the work of all of the bodies. At this time, I want to take a moment to discuss our Mosaic Award. The Mosaic Award is designed to acknowledge the work internally and externally that it takes to move the needle forward in human rights. Human rights is a complex work because it's systemic, meaning that it's about policy and procedure, but it's also about cultural feel and mindset shift. And so it takes a host of people, from grassroots workers to our people in legal professions, as well as social services professions, millions and millions of discussions, roundtables about how to grow this city forward in the name of human rights. And so on tonight, we are going to acknowledge some critical players for this year who directly supported the Human Rights Department in the effort of moving the human rights needle forward. And so on the program, you see that there is an acknowledgement of both internal Mosaic awardees as well as external Mosaic awardees. And so at this time, I'm going to invite staff to come and read some information about each of the awardees, and as your name is called, please come to the front to receive your award.
Thank you all. Any of us that work in human rights will tell you we do not do this work alone. Our partners are critical. It's not like they're voluntary, they're optional, they're critical to the success of the work that we do. So I'm going to introduce a couple of really special people who are receiving recognition and awards tonight, called the Mosaic Awards, the Mosies for short, I think, Paula. As I call your name, if we could hold our applause, I'm going to ask the individuals to come up to the stage as I'm sharing a little bit about the work that they've done with us. And then once I've finished, we'll hand them the award, and I invite you to give them a huge round of applause. Yeah, many of you are here to support these folks, so let's let them know how much we love them, okay? All right, so Meredith Berger is the Director of Existing Services at the Greensboro Chamber. She's a natural networker who has leveraged her position and connections at the Greensboro Chamber, supporting our reentry work through Thrive GSO and immigrant and refugee employment. In 2018, Meredith was part of the team that planned a second chance employment training for human resources officials. In 2022, she helped us develop the showing of the film 13th, many of you have seen that, and the following community dialogue. Most recently, she connected with the League of Women Voters Immigration Roundtable, of which Human Rights is a part, to talk about how to promote refugee and immigrant employment to businesses. Her heart shows up in her follow-through and in her willingness to make relevant connections to companies like Certeco and Ralph Lauren, who are open and ready to have proactive conversations about supportive, equitable hiring practices. We cannot do this work without people like Meredith. Please give her a huge round of applause. Thank you so much, Meredith. Alex Eath is immigration. He works with A.G. Lynette & Associates. He is an immigration attorney. Immigration law is considered by many to be one of the most complicated forms of law, one that is tightly regulated. It changes constantly based on politics, and it can deeply impact someone's life, safety, and health. Alex is head of the Immigration Law Practice Group at A.G. Lynette & Associates here in Greensboro and believes that all of his clients deserve a true and non-sugar-coated assessment of their cases. In 2017, I connected with Alex and asked him to present about the U.S. immigration system to the first Greensboro Speaks Spanish class for city employees. Employees were shocked to learn about the U.S. immigration system, the ways in which we've used laws to prohibit certain people from entering the country or becoming U.S. citizens, and how for many there is either no path to legitimate status or there's a 20 to 25-year wait. Ever since that first class, Alex has willingly shared his expertise with city employees and the Greensboro Chamber's Other Voices program 3 to 4 times a year at no cost to us. His pragmatic approach and ability to simplify a very complicated process has deeply impacted hundreds of city employees and other community leaders, deepening their understanding of the challenges immigrants and refugees face every day. Let's give Alex a huge round of applause. Robaline Lawhorn, a dedicated advocate, has served as the manager of the homeless rental counseling for the Greensboro Housing Coalition for a remarkable number of years. Her commitment to the community extends beyond her tenure with the organization, where she has been an invaluable asset for over a decade. In her role, Robaline tirelessly advocates for the residents of Greensboro, ensuring they have access to the essential resources they need to thrive. She finds great joy in collaborating with the Human Rights Department, as our partnership has yielded several successes. Together, we've helped residents secure vital financial resources and find habitable and safe housing. In turn, that's helped us stay true to our shared goal of ensuring every resident of Greensboro is housed and safe. Looking ahead, Robaline remains dedicated to being a steadfast partner for our continued collaboration to blaze the way for greater achievements and opportunities to reach more residents here in our city. Let's let Robaline thank her for all of our work. Leilani Roughton is the director of New Arrivals Institute, a nonprofit here in Greensboro that assists immigrants and refugees with self-sufficiency and U.S. citizenship through education. Her many years of experience have benefited the Human Rights Department in facilitating refugee integration here in Greensboro. She is knowledgeable about transportation to public safety, working tirelessly to build bridges, heighten awareness. She trains, she connects, she supports, and partners to build the fabric of our receiving community. Most recently, Leilani was instrumental in rolling out a critical training to NC Work staff on working with immigrants and refugees so that NC Work staff could, in turn, train the business community and promote employment opportunities for immigrants and refugees. Leilani is also the driver behind major events like World Refugee Day, one of our favorite annual events that celebrates refugee resettlement here in Greensboro. Leilani's work embodies all that the Mosaic Award represents. Let's give her a huge round of applause. Jennifer Roop works as the executive director at Guilford Green Foundation and LGBTQ Center, which is a nonprofit and charitable organization founded in 1997 in Greensboro. Their mission is to advance equality and inclusion for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer, or LGBTQ, community through programming and philanthropy, along with promoting diversity and inclusiveness throughout the LGBT community by raising and distributing funds for LGBTQ organizations and programs, and growing an endowment to sustain funding for these purposes. Jennifer also continues to work effortlessly towards raising awareness through community partnerships by supporting the Human Rights Department Transgender Task Force programs and investments such as the Transgender Day of Remembrance, Transgender Day of Visibility, and the Fair Housing Training. Jennifer and the staff show up ready to work, and they participate whenever we call. which as a result continues to build an even stronger partnership. Let's recognize Jennifer. Mark Springfield has been an advocate for the disabled community for over 20 years and currently serves as the Community Inclusion Specialist at the Disability Advocacy Center, where the mission is to help persons with cross disabilities to attain their independent living goals and be inclusive in all aspects of our society. He also serves as a member of the Greensboro Mayor's Committee for Persons with Disabilities. Mark's passion is to work with local architects and government officials to provide community inclusion to persons with disabilities by removing architectural barriers in residential homes, commercial buildings, and campgrounds. Mark continues to partner as a disability advocate for multiple programs and events within the Human Rights Department, including the Boards and Commissions and the Fair Housing Month Luncheon. Let's give Mark a huge round of applause. He wasn't able to join us. We'll gather this group very briefly for a quick photo, and then I'll invite Paul up to the podium to introduce our next group of people.
Can we get another round of applause, please? At this time, I will be sharing a little bit about our outstanding city staff. And so first up, we will have Liz Alverson. So Liz's job is incredibly important because it often is overlooked. She is diligent in making sure that we have resources for those who are unhoused. Recently with our Fair Housing luncheon, we talked about the impact of what happens when you're not able to get settled because you don't have a place to settle. And so Liz's day in and day out work is poured into making sure that we are able to get people into sturdy and safe housing. Next up, we have Katie Croft. In 2017, we had a crazy idea to offer Spanish classes to city employees. It took some time, but they finally convinced Human Resources to support a class that tied basic Spanish, cultural awareness, and language access. Katie Croft is the Organizational Effectiveness and Development Consultant with the Human Resources Department and was tasked with partnering with us on a program that we now call Greensboro Speaks. She has become the program's biggest champion. With Katie's help, Greensboro Speaks expanded to a beginner, intermediate, and advanced class levels, all which have received funding to ensure its sustainability. Our now formalized curriculum, which has been requested by numerous cities across the state and country, is now Katie's heart, and everything that she does and exudes empathy and compassion in her professional and personal life. During one of the coldest nights of the year, Katie leveraged her work relationships to help a resident who refused to leave the tent he was living in. Because of Katie, he made it through the night safely. Greensboro is safer, a more accessible place, and a more diverse place, all because of wonderful city employees like Katie. Next up, we have Melanie Jones. Melanie is a local inspiration to many through her years of hard work and dedication that continue to have a lasting impact within the community in many ways. She currently serves as the Executive Director of Guilford Metro 911 and is responsible for training all new emergency communications employees to ensure the highest quality of service to the public and compliance with all standards regarding the calls that are for intake and for dispatch processing. Melanie's section also reviews on a monthly basis law, fire, and EMS issues to ensure the highest quality of service to the public and compliance with all standards regarding the calls that are taken in and the dispatch process. Training and quality assurance are also responsible for the majority of all public education and outreach regarding 911. Not only does Melanie strive to assure the best training, but she also continues to connect with human rights to ensure the best annual trainings, retreats for the boards and commissions by providing facilities and meeting space. Melanie and the staff continue to display the best support as well as hospitality towards the department, and we look forward to this continued partnership. Next up, we have Tony McCarty. And so Tony works in our call center or contact center, and he is front lines for marketing and making sure that information is dispersed to residents and internally as well. And so we just wanted to make sure that tonight we raised up how important it is for communication processes that connect us to the city and residents as well as to each other. And Tony has been able to be available at the drop of a hat. And so the staff member who nominated him said that she most appreciated that no matter what her concern was, he would always do his due diligence to ensure that she got connected to the correct or proper office. Next up, we have Tracy Nash. Tracy is the Senior Budget and Management Analyst for the City of Greensboro Budget and Evaluations Department. She has been the budget analyst assigned to human rights for several years. She is genuinely vested in the needs of the Human Rights Department. Recently, human rights departments across the state have tripled in size to accommodate the needs of residents, and some have as many as 15 or 30 staff members. Over the past year, Tracy has worked exceptionally hard to ensure that the department has appropriate capacity and resources to fulfill the commitment of promoting community harmony and restoring wholeness to the aggrieved. We are now up to 9 staff members and counting. Her patience in familiarizing the department with creative resourcing, as well as educating those in financial decision-making authority regarding the needs of the department, has been unmatched. She is a shining example of analysts who understand the relationship between resource allocation and social justice. We're almost there, folks, but we have saved some of the best for last. Next up, we have Victorian Simmons, who has started working with fire and community as the community engagement specialist. She hit the ground running in the wake of a tragic fire of 2018 that resulted in the loss of 5 refugee children. We are so thankful for the ways Victorian has supported human rights efforts to reach the international community, from supporting the creation of the video series about how smoke alarms work, which is something still in progress, but she's also supported awareness about language access in public safety spaces. Victorian is our go-to for all things fire, from supporting bilingual staff to recruiting soccer players for World Refugee Day and to advocating for adequate interpretation and translation. Her creativity and energy is contagious, and so we appreciate her help, responsiveness, and people-centered focus that she brings to her work. Last but certainly not least is David Walters. Relatively new to the city, Dave, or we like to call him Dave, but David has already shown his commitment to supporting the humans that call this city home. As the internal communications specialist for the communications department, Dave has demonstrated a keen eye for detail, quick wit, and an effective relay of information. His support of our work has meant quick response time and expedited process. But most importantly, it has also meant showing up to assist with the IAC elections at the Coliseum, his support of Dia de los Niños down at the library, or recently when he brought his warm smile and positive spirit to World Refugee Day at Hester Park. Dave's ability to catch a small mistake or to suggest better wording is paramount to the process of effective communication. However, we all believe his ability to tell a heartwarming story of a recent retiree or a dedicated city employee shows he is invested in humans living full, joyful lives. His perspective is highly valued, his professionalism certainly respected, but his compassion and kindness are truly celebrated. At this time, if you would please give a resounding round of applause for our city partners. Again, thank you guys so much for making the work that we do a little bit easier and a little bit wider reach for the citizens or residents of Greensboro. At this time, I will turn it back over to Dr. Love.
a critical part of the work. Yes, please, let's give them one more hand as they take their seats. A critical part of the work that has to be done happens at the helm of our top city leadership. When you see boards and commissions in action, when you see expanded capacity within a department, it is because our city council has worked diligently to learn from our city manager's office based on data, feedback, general information from the community, what's needed. And each time they challenge themselves to respond at an altogether higher level. I mentioned that 2 of the boards and bodies, the Transgender Task Force as well as the Ad Hoc Committee for African American Disparity, are relatively new bodies, only being approved in October of 2020 and then going into activity in 2021. Those kinds of things happen because council members say, what is the pulse of the community? What additional liaisons, ambassadors do we need to effectively do the work on behalf of residents so that we can get the information we need to make well-informed decisions? Caring council members are basically the catalyst for how we get to a place where we have volunteer bodies like the ones established, or again, have budgets that are approved that increase the capacity for a human rights department. Those things don't go unnoticed, and as such, I would certainly appreciate you giving a round of applause as we welcome our city council liaisons for our boards and commissions to the stage. Councilwoman Abuzawader is the liaison for the Human Rights Commission, the Commission for the Status of Women, and she is also the liaison for the International Advisory Committee. Councilwoman Hightower is the direct liaison for the Ad Hoc Committee of African American Disparity. And Councilwoman Thurm is the direct council liaison for the Transgender Task Force. The 3 of them work tirelessly to tap into not only monthly meetings, but they get involved in the planning process for upcoming outreach and education events, learning more about the changes in policy necessary. And so they are coming to us tonight in order to deliver calls to action. Please welcome Councilwoman Abuzawader, Councilwoman Hightower, and Councilwoman Thurm.
Hey, I'm listed first. What do they do? Start out with the best, right? So, good afternoon, everyone. I am Sharon Hightower. I'm the councilwoman for District 1. I've been on Greensboro City Council for 10 years, since 2013. I am the liaison for the Ad Hoc Committee on African American Disparity. Why do you say that committee is started? So let me give you just a slight history. Back in 2020, when we had the incident with George Floyd, we started having a discussion around why is it that Black people are still not as progressed as we should be, having endured slavery through the years and Jim Crow. Why is it that here today in 2020 are we still disparaged? Why is it that we still see police incidents of Black men and women being killed? Why are we incarcerated? Why can't we get good housing? We always have the highest interest rates. Why is it that we live in slum areas and low areas? We can't get good paying jobs, just a simple living wage that will help us to raise our families and have an quality of life that we all deserve and want. And so around that discussion, we looked at other cultures, and we looked at how they have sometimes progressed faster than we have. And we say, what is the barrier that stops us from being able to progress as Black people? What is it about the color of my skin, the melanin in my tone my skin that says, no, you don't deserve that. And so George Floyd really heightened that for us. And so we said we have to find solutions. We know the problem. A lot of it is the culture of people, the systemic issues that have been over time, the systems that are built to stop us. And how do we correct that? What is it that we must do to help our lives be raised even higher? Yes, we've come some ways from slavery. Absolutely we have. Thanks to the Rosa Parks and the Martin Luther Kings and the mega efforts of the world. But we still have not arrived, even in today. And so our fight is still just as hard today as it was in 1863, in the 1900s. I mean, it's still a fight, simply to be relevant in the community that we serve and we live in. And so out of that discussion and passion, we decided to form a committee that sits down and looks at those issues and decide to break those barriers. There's a song that talks about breaking the chains. And so we have to break the chains of discrimination. And so we wanted to form this committee, and we had a lot of community members. And what I really like about this committee is that it was thought up by community, because I know that the solutions are in the community. It's not government that comes with the solution, but it is the people that live it each and every day. And so we formed this ad hoc committee, which we will eventually move into a commission. And we did that, and we've been doing the work. I want to applaud Crystal Black. She's our chair. She's led that group. We've had educators at the table. We got nurses at the table. We got business people at the table. And it's because all of them, at some point in time, have been impacted by the issues surrounding black people. And we have began to talk around those solutions. We began to look at data, and we began to say, okay, how do we break this cycle? How do we remove these barriers? And we know that brilliant minds in the community will do just that. I am proud to be the liaison between the committee and the council, where I can bring back the concerns to the city council, but I can also make sure that the issues we are talking about are facilitated. So today I'm here just to give you a call of action. That call is learn about us, work with us, talk with us, find out what it is that we are suffering through. Yes, we have a smile on our face and we do some great things, but underneath is still that question of why I, as a black woman, oftentimes don't get a fair treatment. Why is it somebody crosses the street when they see a black person? What is it about us who live in East Greensboro? They say the crime is over there and the issues are concerning. Talk to us and find out that we are just like any other individual. We just want to live the best life that God has said we should have. And so today, I challenge you to understand even why we celebrate Juneteenth as our Liberation Day. Because in 1776, we were not free. And so 4th of July, a great holiday, but truly we don't own it. Juneteenth is who we are. And so today to you, I say in this audience, please support us, encourage us, help us to be the best we can be. So thank you for hearing me.
Good evening. I'm Tammy Thurm, Greensboro City Council, District 5. I've been serving for almost 6 years now, and I am honored to be the council liaison to the Transgender Task Force here in Greensboro. You know, when this task force began, maybe 18, 20 months ago, we had no idea what was going to happen in the next 18 to 20 months and what we're seeing right now. I have to give those that serve on this task force a huge shout out. They are some of the most dedicated people to their community and have shared hard truths about what goes on in our community. Whether it's a matter of sharing the fact that we need to train people at our winter shelters how to accept and welcome the transgender folks in our community. Or their innovative idea of having a youth summit for transgender youth and their parents this past year. Huge accomplishment. It was a small group that attended, but I would rest assured that next year it'll be much bigger. It was an amazing event that allowed transgender youth to talk openly amongst themselves, parents of transgender youth to share among themselves, and then bring the groups together, talking about healthcare, mental health, just about anything, schools, dealing with schools, just about anything you could imagine. And here we are, maybe 9 months later, 8 months later, and if you look at the headlines and look at what's going on in our world today in relationship to the transgender community, little did we know how desperately we would need this task force. We don't have to look far. All we have to do is look to Raleigh and see what some of the proposed changes are for these at-risk youth, for the young people in our community that are transgender. And thank goodness they have adults that are willing to stand up and advocate for them. But the LGBTQ community right now is in danger, and it's very real danger. And my call to action for you would be to educate yourselves. Find out what's being proposed in Raleigh. If you're passionate and you care about the subject, there's some really scary legislation going through right now. Please, 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 don't put it off for somebody else to speak up. Speak up, write your legislators, call their offices, let them know that how important it is not to alienate our transgender and the LGBTQ community as a whole. Please, I ask you on behalf of our task force and on behalf of the LGBTQ community, please be outspoken with your support. Please help us advocate for their rights. And here's hoping a year from now when we gather, we won't have to have an even harder discussion. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Mary Kay Abuzawader. I am on the Greensboro City Council as your at-large representative, which is the whole city. I was elected in 2011, but I was very involved with some of the city departments and commissions prior to that. Actually, I was on the Human Rights Commission in 2007, and after that I was on the International Advisory Committee. So many of these boards and commissions are, as you can tell, something that we as council members are passionate about. I know in serving on the Human Rights Commission under the direction of Dr. Love Jones, the department, Jody, Liz, Paula, everyone involved, that it's amazing to see how it has evolved and grown over the years with all of the wonderful committees that are formed now. You heard a little bit of that earlier from Liz. So the Human Rights Commission is very, very important, and the fact that the Human Rights Department and the city support it are just amazing in this day and time. It is wonderful. It is heartwarming. And I will have a little call to action at the end after I go through the other commissions I'm liaison for. But you need to know that so many people have been involved with the Human Rights Commission over the years, and it is heartwarming to know that many of them have gone on and done great things in our community. And I know that many of you who are on it now are already doing great things in our community. Also, the Commission on the Status of Women, I am liaison for that one as well, try to make most of the meetings. And I'm very proud of what the Commission on the Status of Women does. Of course, you've heard about the survey from Liz, and that is phenomenal because when you send out surveys, sometimes you're expected like a 1% return, and it's been amazing how many have come in. This is to see what do the women in Greensboro really feel about how the way they are treated and how they fit into our community and the fabric of our community. Also, I do want to mention that one huge thing that the Commission on the Status of Women did, and I was already on City Council, is the breast density that Addie Jeffrey actually came and spoke to the Commission on the Status of Women. And it was about, making sure that doctors were aware and could tell women about the density of their breasts because it's very important. If it's dense, then sometimes it hides the tumor, and that's exactly what happened to Addie. So she came to the Commission on the Status of Women, and it went all the way to Raleigh, and it got passed, and now doctors are required to let you know. So, and the last but not least, by any means, is the International Advisory Committee, which I am very, very close to, and have been since 2008, well before I was elected to City Council. But I'm just ecstatic about how it has evolved over the years. I mean, now we have a World Refugee Day at Hester Park, and everyone is involved. Parks and Rec is involved. The Greensboro Police Department, thank you, they are involved and come and cook hot dogs. I mean, there's so many things that go on, and you learn a little bit about each culture. And the organizations, all of the organizations that help assist, they are at all these events. And we thank you so much, because every time I go to an event and see all of the organizations, I'm just thrilled. It just warms my heart. So, my call to action is maybe just a little different. My call to action is I don't need to be speaking to the people in the room. You all know kind of what's going on. What I need for you to do is go out and tell everyone, and it was mentioned earlier, you needed to tell everyone to start becoming involved with their city on boards and commissions. It is amazing the things you will learn. You can be on a commission for 3 years, you can be on a commission for 6 years if you so choose, or you can switch to another commission. So please, the commissions that we've spoken about today, as I think Tammy or Sharon mentioned, please get your friends involved, get your neighbors involved. The more people we have on the commissions, it's sometimes hard to fill the vacant spots. So please have everyone become just as concerned and involved as you are. Thank you so much.
Again, just to echo that sentiment of appreciation to our City Council, thank you for the time that you devote to these boards and bodies. Next, I think it's befitting to acknowledge that when you do human rights work, some of the connection happens over these kind of starchy roundtable discussions. Other times it happens in the sheer recreation of enjoying the city and connecting with people who are like-minded. But what we have found in my tenure, and actually this year makes 10 years serving in this role, is that people connect on an artistic level, build relationships and bonds of understanding. Some people's worlds and minds are opened up by the artistic expression that happens across this city that expresses thoughts, feelings, experiences that roundtable discussions would never capture, that formal write-ups would never be able to depict. And so as a department, we have been in literally a decade-long partnership with our next program participant, who has just recently been appointed the role of Poet Laureate for Greensboro, North Carolina. If you would please give a round of applause in welcoming Josephus Thompson to the stage to perform a piece tonight.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Dr. Love. How's everybody doing? Wonderful. Entering this space, I was so inspired to see the colors and the balloons and the tables. And I looked down towards the stage and saw all these faces, the ones that we all stare out together here tonight, and I was wondering how they got here, why they're here, and why we're here. And I was thinking about, our humanity, what it means to be human, and sometimes how difficult that is. And thinking about that, I kept thinking about, as humans, we procreate. And I've had the blessing, most recently, to have a son. I kept thinking about my son and the world that I was going to have to raise him in. And in thinking about that, I wrote these words. Dear son, they're going to try to kill you. Now, what I mean to say is dear son, this world is so, let me try again. Dear son, your mother and I are so excited and terrified to bring you into this world. They killed Keenan last week, tased him till his life phased out, and all he wanted was help. You were black, and they will always see that first, then male, then threat. Not sure if human or some will ever enter their minds, but know that you are mine, and I love you. I want to tell you that you come from Wakanda, that vibranium is in your DNA, but neither of those things are real or true, but either way you'll become a superhero. And not by choice, but over time, to survive, learn to wear masks that allow truth to shine like a beacon of hope through your chest. Dear son, I'm afraid my suppressed fear has stifled my excitement. I'm sorry. It's hard to explain. Your name is coming. It's on the tip of my tongue, afraid to leap, but when it does, boy, you're going to fly. There's a runway prepared for you. But evolution means you probably won't need it. And Africa's in your veins. And we have traveled seas and overcome. Chase the setting sun, praying to see it rise again. And on most days we do. And so will you. You're an epic poem waiting to be written. Wobbling in the womb, you're already consuming all that you need, and we're waiting to welcome you with open arms, to protect you from harm. And the irony is, when your sister was born, I considered buying a gun. Thinking to myself of a wife and daughter to protect, but now having a son, can't think of how that example might save your life or mine. In this society, dear son, you're a magnificent masterpiece, a bundle of joy waiting to be opened, beautifully and wonderfully made. You are enough and always will be. You are more than meets the eye. You will transform the world, and I'm so proud of you. And in 20 weeks, you're already kicking up dust, getting your reps in, getting your weight up. Trust me, you will need it. And I will teach you of the rain, motel balconies, and Autobahn ballrooms, and African uprisings, and vast kingdoms that created culture and knowledge. Dear son, you are a miracle. A rising manifestation of love and peace and joy, of purpose and power and persistence. You are patience personified in God's grace. You are a greeting, a morning sunrise, a reminder, a revolution birthed from the sheer will and necessity. You are needed, and we anxiously await your arrival. Love, Dad.
Exhibit A of the value of artistic expression on human rights landscapes. Thank you again, Josephus, not only for your work tonight, but for every single time we've called on you for a decade. I want you to think about that for a moment. An entire decade of saying, friend, is there someone you can recommend who's going to create a piece befitting for this occasion? And every single time he has answered with a yes. And so with another round of applause, thank you, sir. I've mentioned the importance of a city council that moves the needle forward in human rights. It's a brand for a city. Nowadays, people choose where to live, not based on where the job is going to be as a recent college graduate, but where will I feel like I belong? Where will I feel like I can thrive in the fullness of who I am? And so it takes city leadership that is attentive to expanding the brand of a city to make it a place that someone can literally close their eyes, point, land on the map at Greensboro, Google us, and find out, oh yeah, they do things that matter. They do things that speak to my wholeness. That doesn't happen without not only a city council, but a mayor that sees the importance of decreasing barriers, rectifying wrongs to rights, recognizing that sometimes in the name of healing, you have to say hard words. And like, we're sorry, or we will do better next time. Prayerfully, in some instances, there won't be a next time. But we certainly are grateful for a mayor that didn't count it unimportant to support a city council that lifted up the need to recognize that in 1979, an injustice happened in our community, that for a very long-standing period of time, there was no reconciliation, there was no understanding that we can move forward beyond this experience because we recognize that better could have happened. And so shortly after you turn your attention to the screens that will play the video that gives context to the Morningside Award, our mayor, Nancy Vaughn, will come to the podium to commit to the process of extending these awards to these well-deserving students. But first, of course, you're going to learn about the meaning of the award. Please turn your attention to the monitors. Thank you.
On October 6, 2020, Greensboro City Council issued a historic apology to the Morningside Homes community for the complicity of Greensboro police in the 1979 Greensboro massacre. City Council also stated that 5 awards in the amount of $1,979 would be granted to graduating Dudley High School students in the names of the 5 people killed in the massacre: Caesar Cauce, Dr. James Waller, William Evan Sampson, Sandra Neely Smith, and Dr. Michael Nathan. Leotis Trey McNeil III. Michaela Garner. Jordan Miller. Nylan Page. And Anthony Taylor.
Good evening, Greensboro. It is my pleasure to be here and to represent the city of Greensboro as your mayor. I would like to also recognize Dr. Goldie Wells and Mr. Hugh Holston, who are here with the City Council, as well as our previous speakers. Dr. Jones, I'd like to thank you for your kind words about the City Council recognizing Morningside and what happened. It's sad that it took us about 41 years to get there. But sometimes things take a while. I'd like us to look at these 5 pictures. Those were people whose lives ended on November 3rd, 1979. And let's say their names again. Cesar Chauce, Dr. James Waller, William Evan Sampson, Sandra Neely Smith, and Dr. Michael Nathan. In the prime of their life, they were doing something that meant a lot to them. They were sticking to their ideals. For many years, the City Council had been approached on doing an apology for what happened on November 3rd, 1979. I was first elected to council way back in 1997, and that came before us at that time. And we made some stabs, quite frankly, maybe some half-hearted attempts. Hopefully, it would soothe the community and we could move on. But a few years ago, we were asked again to do an apology, and we were presented with a resolution that the Pulpit Forum and others had hoped that we would adopt. And so, after all these years, we really decided to take a really deep look at what happened on November 3rd. And we had a subcommittee, Tammy Thurm, Dr. Wells, and I. Sharon weighed in an awful lot. And we went through what that resolution was. But more to the point is we went through and reread old trial transcripts. We read books by the survivors. We read newspaper articles that talked about what happened on that day. And we did our research, and we needed to come to a conclusion that we felt was good for us and that was honest as a city. It was not an easy thing to do, because truly it meant that we were going to have to maybe reverse things that we had said, or that we were going to have to take a stand that would be controversial. But we came up with a resolution, an apology, that I believe was truly heartfelt. An apology needs to come from the apologizer. And I regret that it had taken us so many years to get to that point. I really regret it because the spouses and the families of those individuals who died on November 3rd, many of them didn't get to hear that apology. And this haunted them for many, many years. So we decided that we wanted to do something that we would recognize this date in perpetuity. And so we came up with the Morningside Awards, and they were for 5 Dudley High School graduating seniors in the amount of $1,979, which represents the year 1979. And we asked seniors at Dudley High School to do something important to them about social justice. We didn't care what media they used. It could be spoken word, like Josephus just did so wonderfully. It could be an art piece. It could be a video. It could be film. And so after those projects were submitted, there were 5 people that we are going to recognize tonight. And they are the future of Greensboro. They are our future. I am so pleased to be on a stage with people who understand what social justice is. I want to thank the Human Rights department for putting on this wonderful banquet tonight so that we can recognize these individuals in person. So, do we call them up to the stage now? Reverend, and I'm honored to share the stage with Reverend Nelson Johnson. And Reverend Johnson really held our feet to the fire for as long as I can remember, and it is my honor to share the stage with him this evening.
Amen. I first just want to thank you, Mayor, for your words, your sincere words. And I want to also express my sincere gratitude to the family and friends of those who lost their lives that fateful day, November 3rd, 1979. In particular, I want to thank the city of Greensboro, who, how shall I say, Mayor, staggered to the table of justice and made a decision that it was not right that this would go unapologized for. So I want to give you sincere thanks. I was given 3 minutes, and I hope you will not think it ill of me if I take 4 minutes. I want to call the names of the people and say just a word about them. I want to start with Dr. James Waller, a medical doctor on the faculty of Duke University, who took time out of that glorious profession to work in the Haw River textile mill by night and then work in the tobacco fields with fellow white workers, helping them to see the need for black and white people to come together in the mill, but even beyond all of that. I want to lift up the name of Michael Nathan, a practicing doctor at Lincoln Hospital in Durham, North Carolina, primarily serving low-income people, who said, I want to come and be a part of the march in case people get tired or somebody fall and stumble. So he was there. Cesar Corsay, whose family was part of the Batista government in Cuba that was overthrown in the early 60s by Fidel Castro. And he was brought here as a little boy. And he went to Duke University and actually was an organizer bringing together non-professional workers. Bill Sampson, a graduate of Harvard University and who had enrolled in seminary in a Virginia college and took some time out of that vocation to come to Greensboro and work in the textile mill here in Greensboro. And Miss Sandra Neely Smith, a beautiful black woman who was trying to get the children, including my 2 daughters, out of the gunfire and behind a building into safety. She was a graduate of Bennett College and a former president of the student government at Bennett College, who planned to take 2 years out of being at Bennett because her father was a textile worker and she decided to work in the textile mill. I want you to give these 5 people a hand that they have never gotten since they've been in Greensboro. Amen. In their memory and the memory of others who have struggled for a more just society and a more peaceful world. And in relationship to the current trends, we at the Beloved Community Center have instituted a statewide Truth, Justice, reconciliation, and healing process. We believe that the beautiful diversity of humanity is capable of walking toward itself in all of its diversity. And if we walk toward each other, we will eventually learn to walk together. And therefore, we will walk away from the tide of falsehood that creates all kind of confusion. Confusion breeds fear. Fear that makes a man shoot through the door of his house at a 16-year-old boy not knowing who he is. No nation can continue to go in that direction. And so we have set up this process. And I want to ask my table, that includes the staff of the Beloved Community Center, part of them to stand, and the current student government president at Bennett College. Would y'all please stand? Amen. We had a 2-day training session from people all over the state, and they are going back to Wilmington, back to Halifax County, back to Charlotte, back to various places, believing that they can stretch in such a way as to touch that core of humanity that we believe is in all human beings and help us walk toward each other. And we've taught them to do deep listening, almost feel what the other person is saying, and then do respectful speaking, and couple that with probative question. And so we are looking at 7 streamlets that we're working with: faith and religion, youth and students, labor and workers, LGBTQ+, women and reproductive rights, and ecological and environmental. We're in touch with all of these, and then small groups of people in many cities across the state. People say, you think y'all can do all of that? Yes, we do. And we believe that with your help and with your prayers, that the memory of these 5 people who gave up so much in order to help us recover a piece of our humanity. And so I want to thank you, Mayor. I want to thank you, Greensboro. I want to thank you, Human Relations Commission. I want to thank the naysayers that you slowed down naysaying so that we could come to a decision that somehow, some way, our elders say that we came up in a culture that makes a way out of no way. So we don't have to know the way. We have to be convinced that there is a way. And we're not going to stop until we find it, because we human beings have the capacity to love each other, care for each other, and create a blessed, beautiful society. God bless you, and let's walk together, children, and don't grow weary. As the elders say, walk together, children, and don't grow weary. And if we walk together, one day we will be in unity with each other. And this nation, North Carolina, might be the state that will spark something that would take root across the country and in the nation. Is certainly needed. So again, thank you, God bless you, and thank you, the 5 students of Dudley High School. Go on and do your thing.
So before I announce the 5 young people, I just wanted to acknowledge Dudley leadership. But before I do that, I grew up with Reverend Johnson, and so to know his story and to know that it is coming forward in a way that we are hopefully bringing healing to the city is just incredibly touching and moving. So if we could give another round of applause, please. And so I was also very lucky to go to Dudley. I did not graduate from Dudley, so for those in the room that did graduate from Dudley, I understand why you're so proud, right? I know you're out here, go ahead, that's fine. And so with that, we partnered with Dudley leadership, and so I'm not sure if Dr. Timmons McLaughlin was able to make it. Are you in the room with us tonight? Wonderful. If she could come on to the stage for me, we're going to welcome and congratulate these young people. And so the Dudley staff, we also work closely with Counselor Reed, who was in Mexico, and I told her, I understand if you didn't want to eat potatoes and chicken in the name of being in Mexico, but we wanted to just make sure that we uplifted Dudley leadership tonight and had them join us. So you will notice that we have two Dudley principals because Dr. Timmons McLaughlin is moving on and Dr. Gauss is coming on over from High Point. And so we wanted to make sure that we welcomed him into the human rights fold as well. So tonight, I am super excited to hand really big checks to the following young people. First up, we have Nylan Brewington Alhamar. She plans to attend Howard University, majoring in media journalism, film, and communications, with a minor in business administration. She desires to apply future knowledge of business and entrepreneurship to establish a nonprofit production company with the hope of creating an impactful movie or television series that will explain the experiences of people of color, women, and those that identify as queer. So in the real way of being very focused on human rights, if you'll give me 2 seconds, I want to be very kind. Do either of you need a chair? Anyone on stage? I know we got to stand for quite a bit. You good? Okay. See, we're going to look out for everybody. Thank you, everyone. Tonight, she is not with us because she, too, is also on vacation with her family. And let's see, vacation sounds really good, right? But Michaela Gardner is also pursuing further education because she desires a degree in nursing with ultimate plans to open a mobile clinic that would make sure that equal opportunities and quality health care are available for all people, especially those in marginalized communities and impacted by gender. She wants to make sure that her future clinic not only provides easy, accessible health care, but will serve as a base for a mentoring program for children. Next, we have Leotis Trey McNeil. He also is going to move forward in further education. He plans to pursue continued education, culminating with a law degree. He believes that this position will allow him to fight for change in the justice system, as well as contribute to establishing and changing the policies and procedures needed to promote justice and equality. He seeks to improve life for people of color and those that are impacted by systematic racism and limited economic access. I would like to now invite Jordan Miller, who will be attending North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, the Aggie Pride, the fall of 2023. He plans to major in journalism and mass comm with a postgraduate plan to attend law school. His ultimate goal is to become a judge who resides with compassion and empathy. He believes a foundation in mass communication will provide lasting tools that will allow him to continue to elevate the important conversations that justice reform, restorative justice, and honoring marginalized communities deserve. The last big check goes to, I am very proud to say this, the valedictorian of the Dudley High class of 2023, Mr. Anthony Taylor. As a future engineer, he wants to make sure that his work is centered around developing products and technology that combat social justice issues such as food insecurity and inequitable resources. He desires to lead through action and hopes that his life will serve as an example to help promote diversity and inclusion in technology throughout the community and for younger students as they mature. So please, at this time, if you all would give a huge round of applause for the 2023 Morningside recipients. I think I got so happy talking I forgot to flip, but at this time the slide would say that we're going to allow them time to come and just say thank you really quickly. The teacher in me is going to meet the needs of the student, and so with that I had a young person who asked to go first. So Trey, if you don't mind stepping on up, we're going to break alphabetical order, and I told him sure. So with that, please welcome Mr. McNeil to the stage.
Hello? I'm going to keep it short and sweet, but I just want to say, at first, I want to say to the survivors of the 1979 massacre, oh, thank you. You're the best.
Yeah, there you go.
You're the best. You're the best. To the survivors of the 1979 massacre, I would just like to say thank you for working for our people in efforts to get rid of the injustices in our society. To the selection committee, I would also like to say thank you, just for believing in me, I guess. I just want to say thank you again for believing in me to help my future. This money helps a lot for what I want to do. And no, excuse me, I'm nervous, but. Well, yeah, yet again, I'd just like to say thank you.
This is what happens when you end up teaching young people in high school. You do this a lot. So with that in mind, though, I am going to lower the mic and welcome Nylan Brewington Alhamar.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you guys so much for coming out in support of my fellow award winners and in celebration of human rights. I have the privilege of being here today because of this award. This award was created in remembrance of the victims of the Greensboro Massacre in 1979. These members of our Greensboro community lost their lives because of the hatred present in our society. It is my goal to educate others about this hatred and encourage our youth to end it. This fall, I plan to attend Howard University as a media, journalism, and film major and a business administration minor. In the future, I will establish my production company to explain the experiences of Black women in America and my nonprofit organization whose mission is to empower Black youth and other youth of color by creating safe spaces for discussions about inequity and positive outlets like performing arts and academic enrichment programs. I want to thank God, my parents, my little brother, and the City of Greensboro Human Rights Department for supporting me and giving me this opportunity. I would like to end with this quote by Audre Lorde. "Your silence will not protect you." Thank you.
So our next person to the mic, some people might have been like, oh, I didn't see him come in because he had business to attend to today. He's already getting a jump start on his career as an Aggie. So at this time, please welcome Jordan Miller.
Hello, family and friends and guests. It is my honor to be here today. As I sat in my room, I thought about what I was going to say in my Morningside essay. I thought about the law enforcement. I consider law enforcement to be one of the greatest challenges to social justice and equity for the past several years. We have all seen how law enforcement has treated Black and brown people. In such, 2020, we witnessed 7 members of law enforcement take the lives of Black men based on accusations. For months, they attempted to justify their deadly tactics. The Greensboro Police Department motto is to protect and serve. It does not feel that applies to every citizen in the city of Greensboro. My future plans is I will attend North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, Aggie Pride. I plan to major in journalism and mass communications while playing football. Once I have obtained my undergrad degree, I want to pursue a career in law. The first step is to become an attorney and then a judge. I want to become a judge to give black and brown people a fair second chance. I believe in a level playing field. A person should not be given a harsher sentence because of the color of their skin. I would like to advocate for cultural sensitivity trainings for all of those who pursue any career in law. This includes officers, public defenders, and judges. This will help with understanding people who do not look the same as them and those who come from a different background. My fight will always be to serve everyone with an open mind. However, I do believe in supporting and advocating for the underdog. Thank you all.
So we know that passion is one of the things that is key to making sure that we move forward in a way, especially when we are faced with things that are hard, when we're faced with things that are uncomfortable. And so with that, we will hear from words from our future engineer, Mr. Taylor.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Taylor, and I will be attending NC State University where I'll be on the men's track and field team and majoring in computer engineering. First, I would like to thank this scholarship committee for allying themselves with my goals and my passions. This opportunity drastically increased my personal belief that I can have an impact on my community. I want all of you to know I am committed to maintaining engagement in my community, and it is through this that I will leave a definite mark on the world. I will empower others to reach their peak so positivity will nourish every one of those I come across. Lastly, I will embrace every moment I spend developing as a person and giving back to the community. You have boosted me towards my goals, and for that, I say thank you.
We're going to do one more round of applause, and we're going to turn it over to Dr. Love. And I'm going to release our dignitaries on the stage back to their seats. Thank you guys so much for your support of these young people. Before our principals sneak off, I wanted to give a nice shiny gold bag of thanks for all of their hard work. And so we just want to again say thank you and welcome to the process, Dr. Gassens. Thank you very much, Principal Timmons McLaughlin. Throughout this evening, we hope that you all have understood the biggest thing for us is that we are constantly working to build partnership, that we're constantly trying to make sure that we're including as many people to the table as possible. We know that in a city this size, it can get difficult. It can be hard to sometimes bring people together, but we want to say thank you to everyone in the room. I do as Outreach and Education Coordinator for showing up tonight. It just shows your diligence and your desire to continue to build a wonderful, welcoming city. At this time, the Director of Human Rights, Dr. Love Jones.
First, isn't it absolutely inspiring to hear young people take command of their moment to engage a population of people who came out tonight to celebrate human rights, but also to impart a charge of sorts with each of their speeches? I know that I was moved, driven with pride, watching each student say their piece effectively about where they stand in the world of human rights and their intent moving forward, which is exactly what Morningside was designed to do, give them an opportunity to leap forward. I also want to take this opportunity to thank so many people who made just tonight possible. I want to start with our city leadership yet again. I mentioned the work of the city council doing what it takes to brand this city as a place where one can belong. But I also want to thank the city manager's office that works diligently to drive a team of 3,000 staff members who work every day to make Greensboro what it is supposed to be. So if you will again, give a round of applause to our city council and our city manager's office. I want to again say thank you to our board and commission members. It has been absolutely incredible working with you for yet again another year. We know all too well what it means to be in a wave of transition, and indeed the Human Rights Department has been just that. Again, we have doubled in size in a very short period of time, from 4 to 8, plus some additional part-time staff. And that doesn't come without its challenges, but we stood with a group of board members and commission members who said, you know what, even with the bumps and the bruises along the way, we are excited to do the work. So again, thank you so much, and give them another round of applause. I want to say thank you to the Human Rights Department staff. When you see an event like this, it is really at the hands of fewer people than your fingers and thumbs. We really do this work with a handful of dedicated staff members who don't count it in any way a shortening of their time, energy, attention, devotion to be here all day, putting everything together, talking with the vendors, communicating effectively with participants on the program, filling in gaps where gaps exist, because that's what happens when you have a program of this magnitude. And so I want to say thank you to the staff, but not just for what happened tonight. This staff works every single day listening to the hard stories. If you've ever watched television, maybe watched a series of some kind, maybe something like First 48 or something about crime where over and over again the stories are hard to listen to, the difference is that you get a chance to change the channel and say, okay, there's enough of that. Now I'm going to watch a sitcom, or I'm going to binge watch my favorite series that's funny, lighthearted. But in this instance, we don't get to turn the channel. We don't get to change what we hear. We are called to respond to it. And so I want to say thank you to our staff that does this work every day. If you all will please raise your hand or stand, that would be wonderful so that you could be recognized. One person's in the back taking photos, so I know she can't raise her hand, but thank you to all of you so much. A special thank you to Liz Lennon, who helps push the needle for the boards and commissions, as well as Jody, who supports the IAC. But I also want to say a special thank you to Paula Washington, who has only been on the job for 6 months, but is responsible for the logistics for tonight's program. So let's give her a round of applause as well. Tonight is extraordinarily special for me, because the culmination of everything that was invested in me to bring me to this point is at the hands of a mother and father who insisted on being disruptive individuals, pushing the needle, telling me, yes, I can, even when people who looked like me were told, no, you can't. And so for those of you who have been in several of these programs, you know that I'm never remiss about mentioning the people who made me who I am. And on tonight, I have the wonderful privilege of, after 7 years of navigating health challenges and everything else, she pushed her way to come out and support her girl. I would like my mother, Valerie Ned, to raise your hand and or stand if you feel so comfortable. Thank you for helping me to push the needle. This thanks of a celebration is a launch forward. This is where you leave here feeling energized and you go out into the world to do something. I want to highlight that it's not about the size of what you do, it's about the impact that you have. So when you leave tonight, understand that the work ahead is based on these calls to action that were given by our city council liaisons to do your part. My hope is that you will leave here committed to disruption, the kind of disruption that changes minds, changes hearts, changes courses of action. That kind of disruption also known as Good Trouble, is the work that we do in human rights every day. Thank you to every vendor. Thank you to every contributor to this program, from decorations to food service. You have been phenomenal. And at this time, to close out, I'm going to welcome you to enjoy more musical selections from this phenomenal band, Mosaic. Take the dance floor should you desire. Thank you again for being here.
Check.
Also, I heard, we were celebrating my fellow Panthers tonight. I just want to say Panther Pride.
Yes, sir. Pride. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And also
Say
for
it,
those who were not Panthers. I'm sorry.
You can say it, JP.
Yeah, I got jokes.
You can say it, JP. This
I'm
time.
sorry.
We'll let you say it. Wakanda forever. Just for tonight.
Come on, just clap your hands, everybody. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Hey, 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 most home.
Come on, come on,
Come on, hey, 1, 2, 3. Let's pretend for one night I'm the man in your life, and we do the things that lovers do. All the love and good life, I give it to you just right. There's nothing less than special when you come. See what I understand. That works so well for how we are. Have the heart to fall in love again. No one likes you, man. You're like my girl, but Hey, what I like about you, is that you're always so cool and comfortable whenever I'm around. You're someone that I can talk to, no matter what. I count on you because you always be down. So incredible that you'll never find it anymore. So unbelievable that I won't sing the song. Come on, to myself. I'm the girl that lady tonight, just for my night. good to me. Sing with me. Where you at? I like it. I like it. I love it. I love it. It's good to me. So good to me. So good to me. So good to me. I like it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's good to me. Come on. So good to me. So good to me. I like it. I like it. I love it. I love it. It's good to me. So good to me. So good to me. So